She thought reclaiming her power was the end of the fight until the locks were picked. The lies were weaponized, and the people she once called family returned with one last plan to break her. But Alice Edwards isn't just surviving now, she's rewriting the legacy they tried to steal. At her granddaughter's lavish wedding, the matriarch of a seemingly close-knit family, 65-year-old Alice Edwards, discovers a name tag that reads, "The old lady who will pay for everything, my gal." The words, written in elegant calligraphy, sting with humiliation. It was meant as a joke, but to Alice, it was the ultimate betrayal. Her late husband, Robert, had left her well provided for after his death from cancer 3 years ago. And since then, her children and their spouses had quietly transformed her grief into an opportunity for entitlement. Trying to keep her composure, Alice watches her family from the shadows of the grand ballroom. Conversations she overhears make it clear her son Richard and daughter-in-law, Pamela, see her more as a walking ATM than the family's anchor. Even worse, other guests whisper about her in tones laced with pity and derision. An unexpected visit from Robert's trusted lawyer, Martin Reynolds, turns the humiliation into a pivotal moment. Martin hands her a secret addendum to Robert's will, a codicil, that stipulates any family member who publicly humiliates Alice shall be The fortune at stake is far greater than Alice ever realized. Yet instead of immediate revenge, Alice decides to wait, watch, and see just how far her family will go in their pursuit of her wealth. In the days following the wedding, Alice reflects on years of emotional erosion, requests for money disguised as family bonding, backhanded compliments, and manipulative gestures. She pulls out old financial records and finds that over 3 years she has given Richard and Pamela nearly $250,000. Her discovery is interrupted by a call from Pamela asking for yet another favor, funding a 2-week honeymoon in Bali for Jennifer and her new husband, Mark. Alice deflects the request, no longer willing to hand over her money so easily. A surprise visit from her grandson, Michael, now 21, offers a ray of hope. He apologizes for the name tag incident and reveals that he, too, is disturbed by his parents' behavior. Alice senses sincerity in Michael, but she remains cautious, uncertain whether entitlement is a generational curse or if Michael is truly different. At a post-wedding brunch, hosted by Richard and Pamela, at their country club, Alice faces another humiliation. Pamela publicly announces that Alice will be paying for the extravagant Bali honeymoon. This time, Alice doesn't remain silent. In front of everyone, she calmly corrects the misinformation, makes it clear she never agreed to such a gesture, and insists her financial decisions will no longer be made for her. The room falls silent back at her home, over a quiet dinner with Michael. Alice starts to reveal the truth about Robert's hidden will clause, but the conversation is cut short by Richard's uninvited appearance. Enraged by the brunch incident, and the shifting dynamics in his mother's household, Richard confronts Alice. Michael defends her. The tension escalates into a heated confrontation. Richard lashes out, accusing Alice of turning Michael against them. Alice remains composed but firm, revealing her awareness of the manipulation and financial exploitation. She lays down new boundaries, refusing to be treated as a piggy bank any longer. Pamela and Richard's plans to move her out of her home and take control of her estate unravel in real time. The night ends with Alice feeling a sense of cold clarity. Her role in the family is no longer to support everyone financially, but to protect the memory of Robert and the values they once upheld together. Her family has crossed a line, and there's no going back. But the game isn't over, it's only just beginning. Alice Edwards, now resolute in her quiet strength, begins to shift the balance of power in her family by standing up for herself after years of financial and emotional manipulation. After her son Richard storms out from their confrontation, her grandson Michael stays behind, offering his unwavering support. For the first time, Alice feels clarity and power. She contacts Martin Reynolds, her late husband, Robert's lawyer, to fully understand the scope of Robert's will and the powerful caveat clause. The financial security left by Robert is far more substantial than she ever knew, but rather than use it as a weapon, Alice develops a silent strategy. She will no longer be manipulated, and she will invest in those who respect her. Alice begins reclaiming her life. She takes painting classes, reconnects with old friends, and starts supporting Michael's dream to open a bookstore. She no longer returns calls from Pamela or Richard when they revolve around money. When Pamela tries to guilt-trip her into paying for a honeymoon in Bali, Alice instead gifts Jennifer and Mark a check that covers a modest trip to Cape Cod. Her silence and refusal to engage become her greatest tools. Over the next 6 months, Alice thrives. Her home is restored, her garden blooms again, and her confidence returns. Michael's business plan progresses, and Alice proudly supports it. Meanwhile, Richard and Pamela's tactics grow desperate and erratic. Their attempts at charm fail, and when that doesn't work, they resort to veiled threats and guilt. For Alice's 66th birthday, Michael organizes a small family gathering. Despite Alice's hesitations, she agrees. The evening is civil until Richard and Pamela reveal their plan to pursue legal power of attorney over Alice, claiming she is no longer mentally sound. The ambush is bold, public, and humiliating, but Alice is no longer the woman who would quietly take it. Martin Reynolds, in attendance, reveals Robert's cauterization to the shocked room. With documented evidence of public humiliation and manipulative behavior, Richard and Pamela are immediately disinherited. The estate is instead divided between Alice and those who have shown genuine respect. Michael included. Richard and Pamela's fury erupts, but they are powerless. Jennifer, visibly shaken, apologizes for her silence during earlier incidents. Alice forgives her, recognizing that change and growth are possible. The family gathering ends in silence, but for Alice, it is the sound of a new beginning. 1 year later, Michael's bookstore, Chapter 1, is a thriving community hub. Alice has found a new rhythm in her life: story times, painting, travel, and even a budding relationship with Claude, a kind widower she met in Italy. Jennifer, now a mother herself, visits with her baby daughter named Roberta, after her grandfather, as Alice watches her family redefine itself with care, respect, and genuine love. She realizes she hasn't just protected her husband's legacy, she's created her own. This chapter of her life is built on truth, resilience, and a newfound sense of self. Spring drifted into summer, and with it came subtle ripples of change. Alice Edwards no longer lived in the shadows of her family's demands. Her time was now, filled with deliberate choices, her brushes and paint, her walks through the blooming garden, and her cherished evenings reading in silence or sharing tea with Michael. The air around her felt lighter, as if the walls of her home had exhaled the years of quiet resentment and replaced them with calm. The bookstore, Chapter 1, had opened with modest fanfare but explosive community support. Michael, glowing with purpose, ran weekly book clubs, partnered with local schools for reading programs, and had recently been featured in the town's Sunday paper under the headline, "The Grandson Who Resurrected Reading." Alice clipped the article and placed it in a small wooden box. Her new treasure chest of hope, but not all echoes of the past had been silenced. One Saturday morning, as Alice returned from the farmer's market, a sleek black car idled in her driveway. A man in a navy suit stepped out. He was younger than she expected, with cold eyes and an overly familiar smile. "Mrs. Edwards, my name is Daniel Cole. I represent your son and daughter-in-law. May I have a moment?" Her heart didn't skip it, hardened. "Speak here." Richard and Pamela wish to resolve the estate misunderstanding amicably. They believe there's still time to adjust the allocation with ... discretion. They're willing to avoid litigation if you reconsider your stance. Alice's eyes narrowed. "You mean if I reverse the disinheritance and hand them their fortune?" Daniel smirked slightly. "Litigation is messy, especially with press interest." Alice took a slow step toward him. "Tell Richard this. My husband's name and wishes are not up for negotiation, and my silence was once a gift. It's no longer available." He hesitated, then handed her a card. "Should you change your mind?" As the car drove away, Alice turned the card over once and tossed it into her garden waste bin. The threat lingered. Pamela launched a whisper campaign through mutual acquaintances that Alice had become eccentric, maybe even unstable. A retired friend of Robert's called one evening, awkwardly inquiring about Alice's well-being. She responded by inviting him for dinner and cooking a flawless four-course meal while discussing world affairs and digital banking with sharp clarity. Then, a letter came. Legal letterhead, the subject line, "Petition for Mental Competency Review." Alice stared at it for a long time before calling Martin Reynolds. "I expected a tantrum," she said calmly. "But this is war." Martin sighed. "We'll respond immediately." "But Alice, this may go to court." "Let it," she replied. "I'm not afraid of the truth anymore." In the weeks that followed, Alice prepared. Martin hired a private investigator who documented years of financial exploitation, statements, transfers, texts, Alice also underwent a full psychological and medical evaluation with 2 independent professionals. Both declared her lucid, healthy, and in full command of her faculties. When the day of the court hearing arrived, Alice wore a soft gray suit and carried no notes. She needed none. Inside the courtroom, Richard and Pamela sat stiffly beside their new lawyer, a stern woman, with icy confidence. When the judge called the session to order, Martin presented the curriculum, the medical reports, and testimonial letters from community members who had seen Alice teach painting, lead story hour, and coordinate book drives. Jennifer submitted a handwritten letter apologizing for her silence and affirming Alice's stability. The judge took less than 10 minutes to dismiss the petition. Outside the courthouse, cameras had gathered local news outlets who'd caught wind of the Edwards family feud. A reporter called out, "Mrs. Edwards, any comment on your family's attempt to claim your estate?" Alice paused, then with serene composure, she said, "Wealth doesn't corrupt people. It reveals who they are. And I'm finally seeing clearly." The media coverage hit hard. Headlines like "Matriarch Defends Legacy Against Greedy Heirs" circulated for days. The bookstore saw a spike in customers. Alice received letters, some from strangers, who shared their own stories of family betrayal. But the greatest revelation came the following week. Claude. He arrived unannounced at Chapter 1. Wearing a shy grin and holding a single yellow tulip. "I heard about your court victory," he said. "I brought you this symbol of friendship." Alice smiled, heart fluttering in a way it hadn't in years. "You came from Boston. I thought maybe you'd let me take you to dinner this time." Their evening was laughter and wine, memories and news stories. At the end, he walked her to her porch, and as they lingered beneath the stars, Alice looked at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Robert." Claude took her hand gently. "You're a remarkable woman, Alice Edwards." And for once, she believed it. Autumn came with golden leaves and sharp clarity. The town, still buzzing about Alice Edwards' courtroom triumph, had crowned her something of a folk hero, an elegant warrior who stood firm against manipulation, masked as family love. But beneath the accolades and media interest, Alice craved only peace. Or so she thought. Claude had become a part of her a companion who understood silence as much as laughter. They spent weekends exploring small art galleries, bookstores, and quiet lakeside cafes. With him, Alice felt no pressure to explain, only to be. But peace, like money, can provoke envy. It began with a theft. Alice returned home one evening to find her study ransacked. Drawers open, files scattered. Nothing of high value was missing her. Jewelry and electronics were untouched, but personal documents were gone. Copies of Robert's will, her updated financial records, Martin's letters. The police investigated but found no fingerprints, no forced entry. Claude's eyes hardened when he saw the mess. This wasn't a burglary. This was a message. Alice nodded. "And I know who sent it." Martin confirmed her suspicion the next day. "They've hired a new lawyer. Aggressive, young, the kind that feeds off scandal." "What are they after now?" Martin sighed. "They're trying to claim undue influence, that your mental state was manipulated, especially by Claude and Michael." Alice felt a cold spike of fury. "So now they attack the people I love." Martin leaned forward. "There's more. They've submitted photos of you and Claude, of your art classes, dinners with Michael, trying to paint a picture of coercion, for living a life, for being happy without them." Alice straightened. "Then it's time I stopped playing defense." Michael's bookstore had become the heart of the town. He was planning a fall literary festival, and Alice offered her help organizing speakers, coordinating with local vendors, even painting a mural across the outside brick wall, an open book becoming a flock of birds. It was there, in the middle of a crisp October afternoon, that Pamela showed up. She looked thinner, harder. "We need to talk." Alice didn't pause her painting. "We've said everything that needed saying. I never wanted it to go this far." Alice set her brush down. "Then why did you push it?" Pamela's voice cracked. "Because we're desperate. Richard's job in Florida didn't last. We're behind on our mortgage, and Jennifer won't send money. She says it's not hers to give." "She's right." Pamela's eyes welled. "Alice, please, at least help us keep our home." Alice studied her for a long moment. The woman who had once been her daughter-in-law, now hollowed out by years of entitlement and bitterness. "I'll make you an offer," Alice said. "Not for Richard, for you." Pamela blinked. "What?" "Come to one of my painting classes, once a week, for 6 months. Learn something that doesn't come with a price tag. If you complete it, I'll consider a small loan. Conditional. Documented. Pamela looked stunned. You're joking. No, I'm offering you dignity. It's your choice. Weeks passed. Pamela didn't show, but the threats did. An anonymous blog surfaced titled The Truth About Alice Edwards. It spewed claims of financial abuse, manipulation, and even hinted at a fraudulent will. Martin traced it back to an IP address connected to Richard's old law school friend. Claude was furious. They're not just fighting for money. They're trying to ruin you. I won't let them. Alice replied, so she turned the tide. She and Martin held a press conference. Calm, elegant, dignified. Alice shared her side. Facts, timelines, and legal documents. She spoke not with bitterness, but with strength. I'm not fighting for money, she told the cameras. I'm fighting for my right to live without fear, without manipulation. For others like me who gave too much and were repaid with control. The town rallied. Letters to the editor, op-eds, interviews from bookstore patrons, local leaders, and even Jennifer, who publicly supported her grandmother. The blog shut down. Richard and Pamela went quiet. Thanksgiving arrived, crisp and clear. At Alice's home, a long table stretched beneath golden lights strung through the garden. Michael carved the turkey. Jennifer held baby Roberta, and Claude gave a heartfelt toast. 2 second chances, and 2 women who teach us that love doesn't mean surrender. Alice smiled, tears pricking her eyes. After dinner, Jennifer lingered. There's something you should know, she said. Mom's been seeing a therapist. She's trying. I don't know if it's real yet, but it's something. Alice nodded. If she ever takes my class, I'll believe it. Jennifer laughed softly. Fair enough. That night, as she sat beside Claude on the porch, Alice looked out over her lit-up garden. Her full house, her full heart. You never think life will surprise you at 66, she said. Claude chuckled. Darling, you've only just begun. She leaned her head against his shoulder. The stars shimmered overhead. In the spring, Michael's bookstore won a national award for literary outreach. Alice was featured in a documentary about late-in life reinvention. Her paintings sold steadily, and she began teaching a second class, this one on memoir writing. Pamela, to everyone's surprise, eventually showed up, quiet, sober, and for once, ready to listen. Alice handed her a blank canvas. Start wherever you want, she said. Pamela hesitated, then picked up a brush. At the final exhibition of the class, Pamela's painting stood out. Not because it was good, it wasn't, but because it was honest. A bare tree in winter, stark, vulnerable, waiting for spring. Alice stood beside her, both of them watching the canvas. It's not pretty, Pamela whispered. It's not supposed to be. It's a beginning. Pamela nodded, eyes brimming. Thank you. For not giving up entirely. Alice didn't answer. She simply squeezed her hand. In the end, the inheritance Robert left didn't just change lives, it revealed them. And as Alice Edwards walked through the gallery that night, her red dress swaying, Claude at her side, Michael beaming nearby, and Roberta giggling in Jennifer's arms, she realized something profound. Legacy isn't what we leave behind, it's what we live into.